Hello YouTube and welcome to this video where I'm going to be putting all of Pink Floyd's studio albums into a tier list. Now, before we get started, just a brief catch up I suppose. I haven't uploaded in a little while, like a month or so. I've just been quite busy, but if you've been waiting for The Endless River for me to do the ranking with the songs on that, I'm probably not going to do it. So just, you know, I'm ending that series with the Division Bell for now. I'd never say never, but I'm probably not going to do it, and I'll go a bit more into depth for that when we get to The Endless River. But as always with these tier list videos, it is my own personal opinion. It's pretty self-explanatory. S being the best, D being the worst. It's very simple. Let's just get straight into it. Okay, so starting with The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Now, I'm not actually like a massive psychedelic music kind of fan. Like, I enjoy certain songs in that kind of era. Like, I suppose like Sgt. Pepper's from the Beatles could be considered somewhat psychedelic, but it's not overly. I feel like The Piper at the Gates of Dawn and The Source Full of Secrets as well, which is next, are quite psychedelic albums, but I actually quite enjoy them. So Piper at the Gates of Dawn, I'm probably going to stick slap bang in the middle. I do enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy almost all these albums. I'd say D is the only tier where I'll put things in there that I don't enjoy, but even things in C I do enjoy to an extent, and so just bear that in mind. But yeah, I think it's middling for me. Like, I think it is a great album, but like I say, I'm not the biggest fan of that psychedelic kind of music. So if I'm in the mood for that, it's great, but if I'm not, then obviously it's not. But it is what it is. Okay, next we have A Saucer Full of Secrets, and again, it's kind of it's a good album. It's actually grown on me quite a bit. Like, the first time I kind of listened to this, whenever that was, I remember actively thinking I don't really like this album, and for whatever reason I've been drawn back in because the opening like song, Let There Be More Light, I always liked that regardless. I think that's a great song, so that kind of drew me in to listen to the album again and again, and then it's grown on me. Again, I don't think it's brilliant. I don't think it's as good as A Piper at the Gates of Dawn, but I still think it's probably B, just a bit below. Okay, next we have More, which is the soundtrack album, but it always gets included. I see this one ranked quite low quite often, and I understand it. It's definitely not brilliant, but I actually don't think it's awful as far as soundtrack albums go. I think it's like half the songs are kind of instrumentals, which I'm not the biggest fan of in the world, but then the other half, the actual like more, you know, lyric orientated songs, I suppose, are actually pretty good. Like, they're all right. Like, they range from like all right to pretty good. There's nothing mind blowing. I wouldn't put it in D. I put it in C, because I still think to an extent I can listen to this album and get some enjoyment out of it. Okay, next we have Amagama. This is going in D. I don't like the album, I'll be honest. I see it's kind of a very divisive kind of album. Like, I see some people rank it really high, some people rank it really low, some people slap it bang in the middle. You know, you get some albums where 99% of people are going to put it in top of the list or bottom of the list or blah blah blah. But from what I've seen, it's quite a divisive album. I don't like it, I'll be honest. I just don't like the album. The first side, the kind of live tracks, are fine, but I think there's better live versions out there of those songs anyway, so I wouldn't really listen to it for that reason. And then just the rest of it is all this kind of instrumental kind of... It's not all instrumental, but a majority instrumental, and it's kind of experimental stuff, and it's just not for me. I just don't get any enjoyment out of listening to it, to be honest. I will probably never listen to the album again. Next we have Atom Heart Mother. I have a bit of a problem with long songs, and obviously the opening track, Atom Heart Mother, being a 23-minute long song without any lyrics in it, doesn't sit with me that well because I just don't have the attention span. Like, the instrumental, the music's that are going on, and you get all the different kind of instruments coming in and out, and it is interesting, but not enough for me. The 3 songs, like, in between, because it's an album with 5 songs, so if Summer 68 and Fat Old Son, I actually like don't mind. I think they're alright, like they're pretty decent songs. But then Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast as well, just I wouldn't listen to it. And the opening track, Atom Heart Mother, is not really something I'm enticed to listen to. So I'm going to put it in B. No, I'm going to put it in C. I know a lot of people actually really like the album. And if you do, fair enough. I'm glad you do. I'm glad you get enjoyment out of it. And I don't think it's an awful album at all. But that 23-minute opening with no lyrics, it just puts me off wanting to listen to the album. Like like I say, the 3 songs in the middle I actually think are all right. But yeah, I haven't really got much more else to say about the album. Okay, next we have Medal. Now again, Medal is another album with a 23-minute song on it, being Echoes. But Echoes is brilliant. It is. There are heavy instrumental parts in it, but we also had the lyrics and everything intertwines. And the thing that I like with it is the instrumentals build you up for when the lyrics kind of start, and it's like a payoff for me personally. It's like you get songs that are just purely an instrumental. I feel like there's just no payoff for me in like a lot of songs like that. Some songs there are, like take for instance Vivaldi's 4 seasons. Summer, winter, spring, autumn. Those songs I actually really enjoy, even though they're classical music with obviously no lyrics, but because they have this big build up with the instruments and then the payoff with the instruments themselves dropping, and it's great. If you've not heard them, I'd recommend listening to like Winter by Vivaldi just to know what I'm talking about. So songs like that without any lyrics, especially if I'm in the mood for it, that's great. But again, instrumentals that just don't have anything to them other than being an instrumental, I know some people do enjoy that kind of music, it just doesn't hold my attention. But anyway, my point being, Echoes does hold my attention. Even though it's a 23-minute long song, I think it's great. I really enjoy the lyrics. I love the melody of it, and I do like the instrumentals in between. It like kind of builds up to it. And I think the rest of the songs are great as well. The only one that I think lets the album down a bit is Seamus, which I always think with music, sometimes you get like a 6-7 minute song that feels like 2 minutes, and sometimes you get a 2-minute song that feels like 10. And I feel like Seamus is just one of them, because you get One of These Days, A Pillow of Winds, Fearless, Saint-Tropez, and it's kind of, they're all really good songs, and then you get Seamus, and you're kind of just waiting for it to be over so you can get into Echoes. If it wasn't for that, I would probably put it in S, but because of Seamus, it's so close to being S, but it's not quite there. Okay, next we have Obscured by Clouds, another soundtrack album, and it is better than More, the soundtrack album. It's kind of just an okay album. Like, some of it's quite forgettable. There are some like better than average songs on there, like What's the Deal. I think I actually really like Stay. There's a couple on there that are actually quite good, but the rest is kind of just, I don't think anything's bad on it necessarily, but it's kind of just forgettable. So I'm probably going to put it in C, but I'll probably put it above Atom Heart Mother, I'll be honest, just because, like I say, there's only really 3 songs on that album that I would actually want to listen to, whereas at least with Stay, with Stay is one of the songs which I do enjoy, but with Obscured by Clouds, at least it's just kind of forgettable. I wouldn't say it's boring or anything like that. Okay, we now have The Dark Side of the Moon. Don't really need to explain myself putting it in S tier. It's a fantastic album, very, very highly rated, and I don't even think people can say it's overrated, because so many people rate it this highly, but that's because it is just that good of an album. It really is. I think as an album it works perfectly. Everything is great on it. I think the only thing that for me would let it down a tiny bit, and obviously it's still an S, so this is just, if I'm just nitpicking here, is individually some songs don't work as well on their own, but I understand as an album it's supposed to be all listened to in one and it all works. But if I'm nitpicking, take like On the Run is not a song, if it just came on like on a shuffle play or something, you're not going, personally I'm not going to listen to it. Within the context of the album, works perfectly. On its own, not so great, but that's nitpicking. Still an amazing album. Next we have Wish You Were Here. Now, this might surprise some people. I prefer it to Dark Side of the Moon. This is an incredible album, and again, this kind of shows what I mean by the instrumentals building up to something. If you take Shine On You Crazy Diamond parts 1 to 5, you get that, like, 8 minutes before any lyrics start, but it's all building up to something, and the electric guitar is like building up and it's creating this kind of atmosphere, and then you get that release when the lyrics finally start. And then obviously once the lyrics kind of fade away and you get into like part 5 of the song with that kind of, is it like a saxophone or something comes in, and it's just great, and that's when it works really well for me. And then obviously Welcome to the Machine, I think it's a great song. Probably probably the weakest on the album, really, but still really, really good. Then Have a Cigar, Wish You Were Here. Obviously, don't even need to talk about Wish You Were Here. Then on ending on Shine On You Crazy Diamonds, part 6 to 9. It's brilliant, and the good thing is, I think they all work individually as well. If Have a Cigar just comes on shuffle play, it works on its own as well as within the album. Same with Wish You Were Here. Same with both parts of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which is why I think I prefer it just a little bit over Dark Side of the Moon, because I think it works amazingly as an album, but it also works amazingly individually. Just great songs. Next we have Animals. Now Animals is actually really solid of an album. The intro and outro tracks, Pigs on the Wings parts 1 and 2, aren't brilliant, but they are just that. They're intros and outros to the album. There's nothing wrong with them, but that's all they kind of are. But the three in the middle, Dogs, Pigs and Sheep, great songs. I'm having a hard time placing this because I actually know it is quite a popular album, but this is my opinion, and I think I'm going to have to change something here, because I can't. Yeah, okay. This may upset a few people. I'm moving Medal into S tier because I'm thinking about it, and I prefer Medal to Animals. I just do. I'm more likely to listen to it, which means I'm going to put Animals in A tier, but it's so... This is not a comment on the album itself, it's just my own enjoyment, and I just enjoy Medal a bit more, and I feel like even with Seamus in Medal, I can put it in S tier. I think I can, especially when I'm comparing it to Animals, which is such a great album, but I don't really want to put Animals in S for my own personal list, because I don't rate it as highly, if you know what I mean, so that's why I've moved it. But again, really, really great album. Nothing actually really wrong with it. It's only just my own personal preference, and it just doesn't hit as hard for me as it may do other people. I don't know why, just is what it is. Okay, next we have The Wall. Great concept album, very different from the couple that came before, Animals and Wish You Were Here, because both of those albums only have 5 songs, which are all mainly longer songs. And then I think The Wall kind of completely flips that in a way. The longest song is, I think it's probably Comfortably Numb, which is like 6 minutes, six minutes, something like that. And the rest are all, but there's a relatively shorter songs, but it's a double album. There's a lot of songs, and it's a great concept album, and it really feels like you're watching a movie when you're listening to it in a way. I know there is a movie that was made afterwards in like 82, I think. I've never actually seen the movie. I have got it. I do plan on watching it. I just haven't yet. But yeah, it's just really well executed, and the first time I ever listened to it, I was honestly blown away. I think it could be one of the best albums I've had a first listen to. Just the way it made me feel after I completely finished the album. It may be one of the best I've ever, for a first time listen. But yeah, that's why it's going top of S. It's 100%, it deserves its place up there. I think it's an amazing album. Okay, we now have the final cut, the last album with Roger Waters still in the band. I'm having a difficult time thinking of where I want to put this one, because I actually quite like the album, but it's I'd say it's quite a different style to some of the others. I think it is very heavily Roger Waters, which isn't necessarily an issue, but it just has a slightly different vibe. But I do like a lot of the songs build the way they build up, like starting with the Post-War Dream. It starts really soft and quiet, and it just builds up to that final drop in the music, and it's great. And a lot of songs do like The Gunner's Dream. I like the way the saxophone comes in, like the vocal kind of mixes itself into the saxophone, and then the saxophone takes over into this solo, and it's great. I do think it's a good album, but I'm really struggling on where I want to put it. I think the problem I'm having with it is the songs work individually great, but they don't necessarily fit like an album flow, which is what you kind of got used to with The Wall and Wish You Were Here, Dark Side of the Moon, Animals. Whereas this doesn't feel as consistent, which is why I'm probably going to put it in B tier at the bottom there. Still a good album, but just definitely not as good. Okay, next we have A Momentary Lapse of Reason. Now, I'm not sure how accurate this is, but I remember hearing somewhere or reading somewhere that The remastered version is quite a bit better than the original release because it took away a lot of that 80s vibe of the album. Now, the one I've listened to, I believe, is the remastered one. Meaning I may have a skewed view on the album, but regardless, I didn't really like it, to be honest with you. So I think it's the problem. I don't think it's quite bad enough to put in D, but at the same time, I don't have a hell of a lot of desire to revisit the album anytime soon. So I think I'm going to put it in C, right at the bottom. I haven't got a hell of a lot to say about the album. There was a few, like Learning to Fly, I remember being quite good, and On the Turning Away, but the rest again is just kind of forgettable. And from what I remember, like when I listened to the album, I just don't have the desire really to revisit this album, but I don't think it's bad enough to put it in D. Okay, next we have The Division Bell. Definitely better than A Momentary Lapse of Reason. Again though, I don't have a massive desire to revisit the album right now. Lost for Words is a good song. High Hopes a good song. Wearing the Inside Out is a good song as well. I mean, there's a lot of good songs on there. I just don't have a massive desire, so I think I'm going to put it top of C. I probably will revisit the album again sooner rather than later, because I've only listened to it a few times. But yeah, for now, I think that I'm happy with it being there. Okay, last and who knows if it's least, The Endless River. The reason I went into somewhat depth about how I feel about instrumental music is partly down to this album as well. Because every single song, other than the last song, is basically an instrumental track, which I have listened to the album, but I just don't. It's all just instrumental. It all blurs into one until the last track for me, which is why I haven't ranked it, because I don't really want to. I don't really want to sit through it again. As far as instrumentals tracks go, it wasn't like bad. It wasn't like making my ears bleed, but it's just boring. It's not something I would put on. I just don't find it entertaining, which is why I haven't done a ranking of it individually, because I just don't want to. I don't want to sit through the tracks again and rank them. I just don't. Again, that may change in the future. Never say never. I may one day just randomly get the desire to put it on and rank it, but as of right now, I don't have any desire for that. The last song, Louder Than Words, is actually quite good. It's not the best of the best by any means, but it's definitely not the worst of the worst. It's just pretty good. Other than that, though, I couldn't tell you the difference between any of the other tracks. I just don't remember it all. It blurred into one of just instrumentalness happening, and it was like, okay. Which is why I'm going to put it in D. I'm going to still put it above Amagama because I just do not like that. Whereas this one I just find kind of boring. I just don't like that, and I may one day revisit that. But that is my tier list. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. Please do let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. But other than that, I'll see you guys later.